All right. So today's a guest speaker call. As you guys all know, typically the ones that I will run have become more interactive. We always have that coaching topic, that thing that we all want to mastermind around, figure out how we can level it up in, all that good stuff. But then I bring in guest speakers to one, smash limiting beliefs, and two, just be another voice outside of me on what is working out there if you execute it. Three, show what's possible no matter where you start, right? Because I know a lot of us have limiting. Well, I start here, man. It's I cannot even get there. Nobody from where I came from gotten to this level. And then there's just so many different aspects when we hear everybody's story. Sometimes, guys, it's just hearing a story that inspires somebody. So the first thing, as I always like to prep you guys for the call, is remember, come in here mentally prepped to where I'm going to find the money seed, right? I made an investment to be on this call. I will find something that I will take into my business. I will find that thing that I'm going to start executing. And when you train your mind to do that and not multitask, not have your mind be everywhere else, as there's somebody on this call who's building a legendary 8-figure business right now, do not be paying attention anywhere else, right? You got to be locked in. You are here. Don't half-ass it. Be here to learn, be here to grow, and be here with the mindset of I'm taking something and getting a return on my investment on this call, right? So our next guest is a guy named Mike McGovern, who I follow for a couple years now. And one, I want to give a shout out to Mike because he was the main reason why we were able to get one of my favorite pastors, Greg Ford, out of Ohio, in here to speak. And he was a speaker in the Harvest, an incredible speaker. And that was because of Mike McGovern. And since we've been connected, I've seen such a huge acceleration in not only just the growth of a business, but also the growth of a brand and also the growth of a brand nationally, to where I'm seeing him speaking on stages left and right, on podcasts left and right, and everything that we talk about in the Harvest about growing your brand, growing your business, getting dialed in on your health and fitness, most importantly, which then accelerates all of that stuff. Mike McGovern resembles all of that in one. So I always like to bring in people who are doing at a very high level what we learn about every single week, what we talk about every single week. So you guys could just see another example of what it could look like, right? If you just dropped everything and said, I'm going to do it, right? I'm not just going to sit on this information month after month and see other people who are executing this win at a massive level, right? So we will keep bringing in people who are not just talking it, but doing it at a very high level. And I make sure that I vet these people out because you guys are my family. I want to make sure that we bring great quality people with great hearts and great businesses in to come speak with you guys. And as always, after the call, right, follow the guest speakers that we bring so you can consistently see them every day running the play on what they came and taught you about. So without further ado, let me just hear somebody that's not on mute. Sorry, Jennifer. So without further ado, I want to bring in my brother, Mike McGovern. Mike, thank you so much for out of Columbus, Ohio, the CEO of Columbus Roofing, the CEO of the Reckless CEO podcast. I mean, this guy's doing, whether it's podcast, whether it's YouTube, you name it, guys, he's hitting it on all avenues at a high level. So, Mike, thank you so much for joining us, my brother. I appreciate you being here so early in the morning.
No, man, I appreciate you. And that's quite an entrance. So I hope I can uphold to all those kind words you had there, man. I definitely appreciate you having me on. Obviously being able to just speak to tribe and things that you have. I mean, dude, you've done such an incredible job with the Harvest and like what you've built. And just, again, we connected a few years back, and being able to, watch you grow and watch you develop individuals and doing all this, man. I mean, it's God's work, brother. So I'm definitely grateful to even be here, man. So thank you so much.
Love it, guys. So just to kind of set the floor and kind of give you guys right out the gate, like what you're going to get from this call, right? Ideally, I mean, Mike can speak on so many different things. And if you follow him on Instagram, the same play that we tell you guys to run, it's pretty much like, man, like you can get all of his lessons and all his knowledge from there. But the one thing that I really wanted him to hit on, right? He has a specific topic, and it's how to. There's two things. Well, how to start your business, but most importantly, how to really accelerate your business. Three things to really accelerate your business that have nothing to do with business itself. And I wanted him to share, and he's going to go in depth with all that. But Mike, first and foremost, man, share with everybody a little bit about yourself, like how it started, where you're at, how you even got into Columbus, Ohio, and what you took it to. And then we can get into the tactics, the stuff that people can take and start growing their business.
Yeah. It's funny because grew up I was an athlete, right? I think probably a lot of us a lot of us business people are ex-athletes at some point. And so I played hockey at a pretty high level after high school. I ended up going on and playing junior hockey in Boston for a few years. Was committed to play Division I hockey, got hurt, lost my scholarship, ended up moving back home to Wheeling, West Virginia. And, like all of us, I have my story, right? Both of my parents were addicts, kind of grew up around that. Hockey to me was that escape. That was the getting away and getting to a big city was kind of what really opened up my eyes to like what was possible, right? Because I don't think that if you don't get exposed to things, you don't get to see things. You don't get to, see what's actually out there, what you can accomplish. And, so when I was able to get away and, started thinking that, man, I'm going to be able to build this big life. I'm going to, help my parents and retire them and buy all these things for them. And then, unfortunately, hockey was cut short. And at that point, it was like, my identity was wrapped up into that. I didn't know really who I was. My family owned a bar. Like I said, my father was an addict, an alcoholic as well. And so, you can only imagine what happens when you put that type of person, into a bar, right? And so, at this point, I'm probably 21, 22 years old, moved back home to Wheeling and got directly right into the coal mine. I was in a coal mine for about 2 years and was just miserable. Right. Ended up going from the coal mine into a gas plant operator for a company called Williams Energy. And I was working on compressor stations and, doing all that. And at that point in my life, I was about 23, 25 years old. And, I hadn't focused on any personal development outside of the gym, really my entire life. I was kind of at a point where personal development felt so just hard to get into because it was like, I don't see where I'm going with this, right? There was nowhere for me to take this thing. Like I didn't have anyone around me that was doing the things that I wanted to be doing, toxic relationships, all of these things, right? And some of I'm going to share today is, kind of the things that I needed to reflect on to even be able to get myself to where I needed to be and where I wanted to be. And fortunately, like I always say, it's God works in some mysterious ways. And I ended up going up to a Ohio State game with a couple buddies. And we're walking out of the bar that night. And I remember like looking up at like the Nationwide building in downtown Columbus. And I'd only been in Columbus maybe one or two other times. Columbus is about only 2 hours away from Wheeling. And I walk out and I'm looking up at the Nationwide building and it's like all these lights and all these things. And I just had this overwhelming sense of just like, man, like there's something here. I don't know what it is, but there's something that's calling me here. And I think we've all had that, right? If we started businesses, we've made a big decision in the business. It's like that intuition that you can't explain, right? It's just like something hits you and it's like, what I've noticed for some of the best leaders is, the time it takes from consumption or intuition to a decision. Right? Like how quickly can you feel that feeling? How quickly can you consume information and make the decision on it and have that action follow? And fortunately, that's always been something that, I feel like I had a skill set in, and I don't know if it was ignorance, but it's always helped me to continue to grow quickly because, if I'm faced with something, faced with adversity, it's like, I'm going to make a decision. I'm going to go with it, whether it's a risk or not. I know that backed by the action that I can bring to the table, I'm always going to figure it out. And that's kind of what it was. We're coming home that day and I'm like going through Indeed ads and I find an ad doing door-to-door sales for AEP Energy, selling the generation portion of your bill, right? Having no idea what this is, but AEP sounded like it was, a big deal. And that was enough for me to be able to go back home and tell the people back home, like, oh yeah, like I'm going to be going and working for AEP. Right. It was like it was enough for me to justify the move that I was making because I still was looking for that outside approval from everybody. Right. My parents are like, don't quit. You're making $100,000 a year. You got a truck. You got a house. Like this is a good life, man. Like you should be grateful for what you have. And I was miserable, right? It was like 3 steps forward, 2 steps back constantly. And finally, I'm kind of going through this, kind of dealing with these emotions. I was in a relationship that was pretty toxic at the time, and just I really felt like I had no way out. And I got off of work one day, came up here for an interview in Columbus, and they bring me in, and the guy's like, "Dude, listen, we'll hire anybody, bro. Like, we hire 18, 17-year-old, like, this is a job knocking doors, man. You're making $10 an hour, and you'll make about $35 for every deal that you close." I had about 40 grand in the bank saved up with between my 401k and some money and whatnot. And so, for me, that was all I needed. I knew that if I could just get up here and have some type of structure, that was going to allow me to start to, at least get some momentum and get a rhythm going. So again, I'm going back telling my friends, "Oh yeah, I'm going to get work for AEP. All these things are great." And meanwhile, I'm literally loading my truck up, quit my job, load my truck up, drive up here, and I don't have a place to live. I'm like sleeping in my truck, going to the office, working, get to the point where I can't drive a truck all around doing all this door-to-door sales and this and that. So I have to, and I can't afford the mortgage anymore, or the payment on it anymore. So I end up getting a Toyota Corolla to just kind of, just to be able to survive. So I end up living on a couch with a guy that I was working with. Eventually was able to get my own place and just kind of started, rebuilding. But for me, I got up here, but I didn't change who I was, right? There was a lot of things that I was doing when I got to Columbus that I was doing when I was in Wheeling. Yeah, I might have changed the people and I might have changed the place, but I didn't change the person. And it was just one of those things where I started to slip again, right? I'm seeing, and I'm more worried about partying and going out with people, getting in with the cool crowds. And just before you know it, I'm watching this bank account dwindle down. When I moved here, it was December. So I'm knocking doors in December, February. And at that moment, I was probably 245 pounds. I was bodybuilding, I was powerlifting, and I'm walking up to a door in a big red jacket, and they're like, "Who the hell is this guy knocking on my door?" So things weren't really going my way, right? I remember knocking on the door, and it's sleeting out, it's snowing, and I got probably 10 doors slammed in my face that day. And because I didn't have sales experience, right? It was just like I knew that I could talk to people, and I knew that if I could train, I might learn something. And I remember walking back to my car and literally started crying because I'm just like, "What did you do? Like you had it, man. You had things like, yeah, you might not have been what you want, but like you should have been grateful for what you had." Right. And it's all of these voices in my head telling me like, "Man, go back, man, quit what you're doing. Stop trying to be something else. Stop being this imposter and go back to doing what you're doing." Fortunately, I was able to kind of keep pushing through, right? I started studying Grant Cardone. Right. I started getting into this personal development stuff and learning sales. I would sit in my car and watch YouTube videos and then go knock doors. And, as I transitioned out of that, I got into cemetery sales. So now I'm into selling grave plots. Right. And this was something I didn't even know existed. An acquaintance of mine had said something about, actually, I think he got paid off of a referral fee. And so he's like, "Hey, man, you should go check out this cemetery stuff. Like, you can make some money, man. Like, check it out." There happened to be a cemetery downtown Columbus hiring. And I go in, I interview, and it's an older gentleman, hired me. And he's like, "Man, kind of same thing." He's like, "Bro, we really take anybody. Like, you don't really need to possess a lot of skill here. Like, people don't really want this job." He's like, I think you might have some good sales skills. You're a good looking kid. You can talk well. He said, "But I'll be honest with you, man, I don't think you're going to do very well because you're too loud." He said, you have a strong presence. And he's like, "You're just going to intimidate people. Like, I'm going to give you the job, but I'm just giving you a heads up that like, don't come crying to me when you're not successful in this." And again, I needed the money, though. I needed something. I needed an opportunity. And within the first 2 months, I ended up hitting the highest in sales in our region. I had sold a private mausoleum that hadn't been sold in about 3 or 4 years in our park, which was an $80,000 above ground plot that I had actually, it was on Memorial Day. A guy was driving around in a red Ferrari, and I jumped in my golf cart, and I'm like chasing the guy down, finally get him to stop, and start talking to him. And next thing you know, I sell him this mausoleum, right? And but I'm starting to see these things, and through the cemetery sales, like I always say, like that was the one thing that really started to shift my trajectory, right? And like he was sharing about Greg Ford. Greg Ford told me, he said, "Man," he said, "empathy is the secret sauce." He says, when you can start to learn how to see things from other people's perspectives, when you can start to know that, yeah, you might not agree with the decision they've made, but when you can see it from their lens to say, man, if I was you, if I grew up with your parents, if I grew up with the same things you had, I'd probably be thinking the same way. I'd probably make the same decision. And that's really what kind of shifted my mindset in the cemetery sales, because I had to go in there with the worst day of most people's lives and be able to, have a conversation with them and walk them through this process and support them. And it really, really crafted my skill set as a salesperson. Unfortunately, I still wasn't fulfilled though. I'm like, man, this is cool. I ended up running 5 parks from Dayton to Columbus. They made me a regional manager and moving me up, and they were excited for me, but same thing, I wasn't fulfilled, right? I'm trying to find, just knew that that there was more to it. And I'm sure every single person on this call, we're all business people, we're all entrepreneurs. We've all had that feeling of, man, this is great, but this ain't it. There's gotta be another level to this, because I know what I'm made for, and it's not selling grave plots. And, in that moment, I had a friend that had introduced me to real estate. And he's like, hey, man, you can basically make money with no money. It's this thing called wholesaling. And I'm like, really? I'm like, all right. So I'm, kind of start learning it, studying it. And this was really I would say the shift for me to personal development, right? I'm buying books, and I hadn't read a book in 27 years, right? I'm buying books. I'm doing this. I actually found a mentor group out in Arizona that was going to teach you all this real estate stuff. I had about $5,000 on a credit card and about $6,000 in a bank account saved up, and spent $10K. And I flew out to Arizona, stayed for 7 days. I mean, everything I had put into it, and just dove all into understanding the craft. And next thing you know, same thing, right? Starts getting momentum, growing it. I quit my job. I got a team. We're rolling a little bit, but same thing, just not really feeling like I found my niche yet, right? I think a lot of times too, as we get into things and we invest our time and energy into stuff, we get so scared to pivot, right? How often do you come across something and your ego tells you got to stay in it because you have time, energy, investment into it, right? Even if it's a relationship, right? The relationship ain't healthy for you. Things aren't going well for you, but you got time. And man, 2 years in, I might as well just stay it, because I got to go do another 2 years with somebody else, right? I got to restart that, right? And it's constantly that ego, that self-belief of what is the right thing to do. And I had a mentor of mine. He said, man, you should get into roofing. I'm like, roofing, man. I'm like, I'm not a roofer, dude. Look at me. I'm pretty, bro. I can't get up there, laying shingles. And I start learning. I start reading into it, studying it. He's like, nah, man, there's this insurance game. You can build a sales team. He's like, I'm telling you, man, it's everything that you like to do. So I'm YouTubing it, learning more about it, and basically realize that, hey, you can start a business through this whole roofing thing, and it's not really roofing, it's roofing sales, and then you're subbing the workout. And I had already had some crews through real estate and construction and things like that, and so I kind of had that part, on lockdown already. And then the sales side, I'm like, well, I know how to sell stuff, so I'm just going to start to step into this thing and see what I can get out of it. So go out. I called the first probably 5 to 6 people that I could think of that had houses, right? And although this is relevant to roofing, it's the same to all of you guys too, right? If we have a business, so often we're thinking where do I go find clients at? All right, I gotta go do all this networking, and I gotta post on social media, and I gotta do it. But so often, we have a Rolodex in our cell phone that is customers and that are people that will literally pay for your service right now, right? They're warm leads, right? And so often I think we overlook what our ecosystem currently has in it. And so for me, that was my first step, right? I'm like, all right, I'm gonna call everybody that I know and see if I can get them a roof. Got 1 roof, got 2 roofs, got 3 roofs. Next thing you know, I'm starting to catch momentum on this thing. Now I delegate, I bring somebody in to start scheduling. Delegate, bring somebody in to start, helping here, running operations, and really starting to kind of build this thing into a business. And that was in last year, right? So it'd have been 2022, 21 of last year. I started the business in December. This year, or last year, we ended up wrapping the season up at about 4 million. And then this year we're on path to do about 8 million. And we actually acquired a window company this year as well. So we're already into merger and acquisition stuff. And so, scaling it at a rapid pace. But I don't believe that, that it's the luck of the draw of getting into something that, really worked out for me. For me, it was the momentum of everything along the way, studying real estate, studying this, learning sales. Like, I just happened to find that one thing that really allowed me to have that quantum leap. And accelerated growth. Like, Devin was saying, we've been around each other here for a few years now. And, just being able to, constantly see ways that I can build other people to build this thing. Right. And that's been probably the biggest thing to my success, I would say, and where we're at is really just focusing on building people, allow the people to build your business. Right. And in this moment, now I'm consulting with a couple other roofing companies. I have a couple other service-based businesses that I help out and help them do it. And like Devin said, I'm getting into the podcast stuff and some speaking things and whatnot. And, when Devin asked me to come in and speak, and at first I was extremely humbled and grateful to even, have the opportunity. But then I thought about what is something that I can, what is something that I can share that I feel like is going to be powerful to you guys? Because a lot of times we're all looking for that secret sauce, right? We all think that there's a system or a sales pitch, or there's something that's going to traject our business into, the next level and help us find that success. But what I have found is that, it's as much of it's a business game, it's 80% a mental game, right? Every single client that I work with all have the same problem. Every single rep that I bring in that's trying to be successful all has the same problem. And 9 times out of 10, it's the personal problem. It's the self-belief stuff, right? And so for me to be successful, it really comes down to creating certainty, right? And so I kind of put the speech together for you guys today, and I'd say it's really the 3 C's of certainty, right? So write that down, 3 C's of certainty. And to me, with the 3 C's of certainty, and why certainty, right? I mean, we hear about cold plunge, right? It's cold plunge, it's reading, it's all of these things that, the hustle generation, all the social media tells us that we have to do to be successful. But in all reality, it's certainty, right? I don't care if waking up in the morning and drinking and chugging a black cup of coffee hot is what makes you certain that you're going to go out and have a good day. If you do that enough days in a row, you will be successful, right? When you look at doing cold plunge and reading in the morning and all these things that, yes, are extremely valuable to help you grow, right? And help you face adversity and those things. But at the same time, it's that mental aspect of, I got up, I did the cold plunge again today. I got up, I did the cold plunge again today. No different with 75 hard. Yeah, you're changing and you're becoming a different individual through that process, but all you're doing is creating certainty. All you're doing is creating confidence in yourself that you are certain that you can do the things you say you're going to do. You start showing up for yourself, right? Making your bed doesn't make you successful, but telling yourself you're going to make your bed every day and making your bed every day will make you successful.
This major stuff right here. I've never heard it said like this, brother, and this is so good. So continue on, man. Sorry.
Thank you. And so for me, the first C is confidence, right? Confidence is that first C, right? At every level, you're going to run into imposter syndrome, right? Literally, before I came on this call, I'm sweating, even on here talking to you guys, right? I literally was telling my content guy, I'm like, man, like, I'm nervous to get on this thing. Like, every single time I'm stepping in to do something different or do something new, I have this disbelief of an imposter syndrome, right? And I actually spoke to Devin this week, right? He said, there's no such thing as imposter syndrome. It's just, you're just starting something new. You're just a beginner at something. That's why you have that belief. That doesn't make you an imposter. It's just something new to you. It's something you haven't done yet, right? And at every level, right? If you think about the athletes that you've played sports with, right? I have played sports with some extremely talented athletes, but there was a lot of them that I was better than, I worked harder than, and they still beat me. They were still better than me. They still played on the first line, and I was on third line. I'm like, what? How? I'm doing everything and I'm not finding success, or I'm not beating them. But if you talk to them, if you saw them walk in, the swagger they had, right? They had a delusional belief in themselves that they were already successful, that they were actually the best person in the league, the best person on the team, right? How many people do you know that you look at it like, man, that guy just embodies like success. He just looks successful. And immediately that's our perception and perspective of them. And guess what? That's the perspective of themselves. And so you have to start to create confidence in yourself to build that self-belief, right? To create that certainty, because confidence breeds certainty.
Think about Tiger Woods, right? The golf, they always lost his confidence. Once they lose their confidence, the basketball shooters, they start, it is so crucial, man, when you lose that confidence, how it can completely derail you. So
everything, man. I mean, we all feel it in business, right? There's days that we show up and we're like fired up. Everyone feels it. Like your vibe is your tribe, right? How do you vibe? Do you show up confident? Do you look confident? Like if anyone here that doesn't know or ever seen anything with Columbus Roofing Company, if you look at the team that we have, we've got a team of meatheads, ex-athletes, right? We've got a team of guys that literally embody confidence, right? We show up confident, we act confident, we look, we have created clarity we have created certainty inside of the culture. And so the next C, right, is control. And now control can mean a couple different things, right? I'm going to share a story with you guys. I have a performance coach that I work with, and her and I just started working together. And she says, all right, Mike, just kind of rattle off a few things. Just talk to me. Tell me about yourself. And so I'm going through, I'm telling her this and that. And she goes, oh, that's what it is. I'm like, that's what is? She's like, that's your problem. Like, what do you mean that's my problem? She's like, oh, you're a control guy. I'm like, a control guy. And my immediate thought was like micromanager, a controlling spouse, right? All of these things. My flesh literally in that moment wanted to slam the computer shut and be like, you don't even know me. How can you say I'm a control freak? Right? Because we had labeled control to look a certain way. Right. And so as I'm having this conversation, it's like, nah, man, it's not that you're controlling, Mike. She's just like, let me ask you something. What was the relationship like with your parents? Told her a little bit, right? And she's like, oh, yeah, that's it. She's like, let me ask you this. When you were 8, 9, 10 years old, was there ever a time that you had to make sure that things happened, to make sure that your brothers were safe, to make sure that the ones that you look over were taken care of? I'm like, yeah, I mean, there was a lot of nights where, you had to put the brothers to sleep because the parents were tying one on. You had to make sure that we were going to be able to get home safe, right? And it's at that moment that it starts to embed this control thing. And I start to look back at myself and I'm like, wow, like I literally drive people everywhere. Everything in my life, I'm looking around and realizing that the problem is me because I'm trying to control everything. Right? And you have to understand that it's not about taking control, it's about taking responsibility. Right? As we want to grow our business, sometimes the bottleneck to our business is the fact that as soon as somebody messes up, we jump in and we take control. Right? I heard someone tell me one time, they said the greatest gift that you can give your employees is how you respond when they mess up. Do you take control? Do you come in and belittle them? Or do you coach them? Do you take responsibility for helping them? Right? Because it's not about taking control and making sure that you do it because we know we do it the best. And no one can do our business as good as we can. Right? But finding somebody else to do your business 70% as good as you can is 100% better than you doing it. Right? And so we have to change our mindset on control and look at ways where we are taking control in our business, because we have to empower and allow others to step up and start to take that control. Because if not, you're going to stay stuck where you are, right? Columbus Roofing Company has about 32 employees now, plus our crews and subcontractors. Last year, I started the business in December with me. And I'm not saying that to brag or anything like that. I'm literally saying it is that I was able to constantly focus on how do I build the people, right? I focused on building the brand. I focused on building the people, and that built my business, right? Because I know that I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I'm always looking to find the next person to come in and help me and then give them control. But I like to say that I like to sprint to get there and then try to backfill as fast as I can before I run this ship off the road. Because most of us are visionaries. Most of us are the people that want to continue to grow and scale the business. But if we're constantly taking control of it, we're never going to allow it to. And the third one is challenges. right? Just like we talked about the imposter syndrome, right? I'm sure, Devin talks about it all the time with you guys, right? It's like, dude, you got to post. You got to get out there. You got to talk to people. You got to put your stuff out there. You got to get uncomfortable. But how often do you not do it because of someone's opinion of what you say? Really, that's the biggest thing, right? I mean, how often have you had a goal of something that you wanted, and it wasn't the fact that you couldn't buy it right now. It was the fact of society, family, friends. It was their perspective that you shouldn't buy it right now. Right? I went out 5 years ago. I was at the Arnold, which is an event here in Columbus, Ohio for bodybuilding. I had just moved to Columbus. I've been in Columbus now for 5 years. I had just moved here, and I saw a guy there who had a all gold day date Rolex. I had never seen a Rolex in my entire life. I don't even know that if I knew that Rolexes existed yet. Like, I'm telling you, I'm a country boy. Other than going up and playing sports, like I didn't see a lot of things. And I saw this watch. I'm like, wow, like that's the watch I want. That's the most incredible thing that I've ever seen. And I don't know what it was. It just sparked this thing inside of me. And at that moment, I boxed up every watch I had. I wore a watch every single day. G-Shocks, just the Nixons, nothing too crazy, but I wore a watch every day. I loved watches. At that moment, I went home that day and I boxed up all of my watches, and I told myself I was never wearing a watch again until I could buy that watch. Quit wearing a watch. For 5 years, I didn't put a watch on. About 3 months ago, I hit the number that I said I needed to hit to be able to buy that watch for myself. This watch right here. It was literally the most, it was one of the greatest feelings that I ever had. I'm walking in there, I'm talking to this guy, I'm like, man, this is it. This is, finally, I'm doing it, right? The second I walk out of there, I reach out to my dad to tell him. And I was immediately belittled about doing it, right? Why would you do that, man? You're going to go spend that much money. You should have put it in this and done like all of the things that he thinks that I should have done with my money. The money that I have had nothing, right? Negative. I actually put a post together the other day. I had 18 times that my account went negative over the last year and a half, 2 years. 18 times when I was literally ramen noodles in it. We have all been there, right? And in those moments, I was like, man, I'm going to get that watch. I'm going to do everything I can to get there. The second I get it, I was so excited. I told my dad about it, and literally I got off the phone with him and I wanted to take it back. Part of me would like go home and I wouldn't wear it when I was around people back home. Sheerly because of the way that I perceived how they saw me now. My dad came up here 2 weeks ago before I was heading down to to the speaking event that I had in Fort Myers. And again, last year I was at that event watching it from the stage. This year, they reached out to me and asked me to come down and speak on it because of what we've done in the past year. Huge accomplishment. And he had come up 2 days before, and my dad hadn't been up to Columbus in 16 months. Right? My family don't come up here. I'm pretty much by myself. But he called me like, "Hey man, like I want to come up. I want to see you. Let's chat." He comes up, and we go out and have some dinner, and he has a drink, and then another drink, and then another drink, and all of a sudden here we are again, right? Before we even get home, he's screaming at me. We get to the house, he's screaming at me. He's telling me how I, think I'm better than people because I have the house now and because I have these things that, that I think I'm, and it's like all of these insecurities, everything inside of me that I've been able to like stuff down or like put on the shelf and actually grow from was like in my face in that moment. I had PTSD in that moment of being the kid, listening to him, jumbling around at the door to see what version of dad was coming through that door. All right, I've been able to completely separate myself from those conversations, all of that over the last 5 years. And here I am again with it right in my face. And he's telling me all of these things, right? All of the things that I felt that I had overcome. And now I'm getting ready to literally that evening, him and I got into it so bad, I'm trying to calm down. Man, like, I don't even know what I can say, dude. Chill. Like, I'm sorry that I've upset you. I'm like, I'm literally, I just want to make it better, right? But sometimes, unfortunately, the people around us that don't have that same vision that we have don't have a consciousness level that we have, right? How much time have we spent developing and working on ourselves so that we can actually have empathy, so that we can, build our people and not just worry about ourselves, so we can actually reflect more in these types of conversations. And so for me, I'm like, man, here I am, right? This guy that feels like, dude, I feel like I'm taking over the world, right? I get to walk into a room every day and have 30 employees in there looking at me. I literally am so grateful for the life that I have. I feel like I've built a dream. And the one person that I've literally wanted a stamp of approval from my whole life, I can't get it. But like the next day, that evening, we got into it. He ends up trying to talk him into staying, and he ends up leaving it at 3 a.m. while I'm sleeping, and I haven't talked to my dad since. I had to go down to Fort Myers to have the speaking event. I had this whole speech mapped out, all these things that I wanted to share with the people. I was so excited. I'd actually worked on it with Pastor Greg for over 3 months. I changed my speech. I'm like, I can't talk about these things. That's not me. You can't say that, Mike. You're not to that level. He's right. Literally, I let someone's perspective of me, someone that again, that I've just wanted nothing but an approval from for so long, I let them take me from where I was to their level. Right? And at every level you have this. It doesn't matter if it's family, doesn't matter if it's your friend circle. Every level you're going to have a version of adversity that you have to overcome, a person that you have to overcome to become that new version of yourself. Right. And again, going through this with him, it was like, man, like, how do I don't want to go down there. I don't want to speak. I don't even want to be a part of it anymore. Right. But I was able to detach myself, speak to a mentor of mine. He's like, man, you just got to stop putting expectations on things. And that, again, another takeaway. It's like, he's like, you got to be intentional, but not expectation. Right. Don't put the expectation on that relationship. Don't put the expectation on that business partner, right? That you wish they have. Because a lot of times we love people for the version of themselves that we see them. Right. And so when you put that expectation on them into what the relationship's gonna become or where it could go, you're only doing yourself a disservice and you're only going to be let down. Unfortunately, that's just life, right? Most things have an expiration date. And so I could have sat there and been frustrated, went to the event, things went well. Yeah, I didn't have the speech that I wanted, but it was another moment for me to sit there and reflect and come up with that and realize that, man, it's like, doesn't matter the level, doesn't matter the people, right? When you're talking about putting yourself out there, when Devin's saying to make content, do these things, and I know the only reason that you're not doing it, literally the only reason that you're not doing it, because you're all here, you're studying, you put the reps in, you practice, you do everything it takes to create that certainty. But the voice in your head is telling you that someone else is going to say something about it. Right? All the people that follow you. Listen, if those people ain't buying shit from you, then it don't matter if they follow you or not. Because at the end of the day, your social media is your business. Right? When I started first getting into fitness and I'm posting bodybuilding stuff and I was like, hey, guy, who do you think you are, man? Stop doing that. And I would stop. But I started looking like, what? Dude, why do I care? They're not paying customers. They're not paying my bills. By me putting myself out there, I might connect with somebody like a Devin. If I didn't put myself out there, I wouldn't be here today. If I didn't put myself out there, I wouldn't have been at the speaking engagement. If I didn't put myself out there, I wouldn't have the podcast, right? Every single thing in my life that I have has been because I put myself out there and been willing to be criticized. Been willing to create my own perspective and battle against somebody else's. And overcome that belief of what my parents or whatever their opinion of me was. Right? If I still held on to that, I would never be able to impact the people that I impact today. And so again, man, I to just do an overview of all of it, right? It's the 3 C's to create certainty. Right? It's the confidence, it's control, and it's challenges. When you can start to dial each of those in and actually just run it as a filter, right? Is what I'm going through right now actually a real thing, right? Because same thing with the challenges. When you can start to overcome them, you create that certainty. Yeah, I was frustrated. Yeah, I went through the stuff with my father, but guess what? The following week, after I took 8 of my salespeople down with me and got to connect with some of the best speakers. And like, I got to meet Dave Meltzer, right? Dave actually invited me to come on to his, to come on a live with him in October, right? It's like everything that I literally wanted and knew that it could be, it is. It was just me separating myself from what I thought others were going to think of me, right? And be able to create that certainty to say, man, I overcome these challenges. I'm certain that I'm supposed to be where I'm at, right? I'm willing to let go of control to help other people. I'm certain that I'm going the right direction, right? I'm showing up every day for myself and stacking the wins. I'm certain that I got the confidence in myself to be what I want to be.
Whew, man, I'll tell you what, that, and I saw in the comments, man, that hits hard when you think about, one, a lot of times, guys, we are worried about what other people's opinions are of us. And more times than none, too, it's, yeah, every now and then maybe somebody may say something, but nobody really gives a shit the way that you think they give a shit about you, right? You know what I mean? So that's just another thing and another reason why to continue to get yourself out there. Because, this guy who I've been coaching with, Wes, he put up a video and he was like, some of my clients, he goes, when I tell them they need to get who they are out there as a business owner, as a person, he said one of the biggest things, like, when they go over this, they have so much trouble putting out positive content, but they have no issue. And he says the word, he goes, putting out the fuckery that they've been doing for the past 15 years, out drinking, getting sloppy drunk, ruining their body, doing all these like ridiculous, because it's acceptable to society. It keeps your audience in their comfort zone of living reckless, right? And he said they had no problem sharing the drinks with the girls or the boys or whatever. But then when you ask them to share a personal development journey, something positive, a win, it's like, whoa, like, no way. What are people going to think? And man, everything that you're saying hits home big time. And even, I went through, still go through that same stuff when people, whether it's family, whether it's close friends, when you elevate above them, you will have a bunch of arrows of insecurity coming your way. And some of you don't even realize. You're like, wow, now that I've heard this, I realize why their energy changed around me. And some of you are so like, man, if I don't have my friends and family support, I can't grow my business. Well, let me tell you right now, some of my biggest referral partners are people that I've never met before on social media. How crazy is that? And it's not the people that I grew up with that are feeding my family, right? And with that being said, Mike, I do want you to go into content because, and I want everybody, like, your homework assignment, again, it's doing the work off the calls, not just getting fired up and leaving, but follow Mike because, Mike, you every single day, you're putting out different content, right? So maybe somebody is on this call, they're like, all right, I get it, man. Like, I need to put out stuff. Like, it's been proven a million times over that doors open that would have never opened if they didn't see me on social media. It's been proven time and time again that people made hundreds of thousands of dollars putting out content on social media. All right, I'm making the decision. I'm going to post. Outside of business posts, right? Solicitation, right? Like, hey, buy my product. Tell me about the strategies. Guys, this is so important. Write this down. Tell me about the strategy of how you decide to put out content, because I know a lot of it is not straight business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I so often, and I used to do the same thing, right? I would hesitate to post anything. So I'm like, man, if I'm not dropping a bomb, it ain't going to matter, right? People aren't going to hold on to it. And, I realized that we put so much pressure on trying to talk to everyone that we stop trying to talk to the right ones, right? Like, your message will connect with somebody. It doesn't matter if it's one person. Like, I always use Jesus as an example, right? I'm a religious guy, right? Like, Jesus didn't go out and speak on the mountain and try to influence thousands of people. He influenced 12. Those 12 went and spoke his message. Right? And so you have to craft what your message is. Like, who are you? What are you? What do you want? And actually be honest with yourself of the goals that you want for yourself. That's where you start to build the content. That's where you start to build the brand. That's how you start to build that culture. Right? And for me, it's like, again, constantly looking at it like, man, I don't want to put something out because what if no one cares? Like, you have to just show people you. Right? I heard Ed Milet say something. He said that people find comfortability in your consistency.
People crave consistency.
They crave consistency. Most people don't have a consistent person in their life. I didn't. I was one of those people. When I found a couple of the mentors that I have right now, they've been the most consistent people in my life, and my growth has accelerated. Because I knew that no matter what, that I had someone that had my back. That's all. That's what your people need. And not just the people in your company, but the people outside watching you. Because when you show up every day, because how many people are fly by night? How many people find success and then they go away? How many people are in the spotlight and then they're gone? Mostly everybody, right? The 1% are the ones that continue to show up day in and day out and day in and day out, right? We overestimate the value in hustling and we underestimate the value in consistency. Right? By just doing that small thing and showing up, you are not only creating the wins and the compounding effect for yourself, but for everybody out there. Right? And so people just need to see that you are a real person. Right? When shit's going bad, talk about it. When shit's going great, talk about it. Too often we're looking at only sharing the wins. But we all know that that's not real. And the thing is that we put so much pressure on ourselves to make sure we're saying the right things and crafting the message and this and that we're actually, now we're talking on content that's not even us. Because you were you when you were going to share. And then you hesitated and you waited and then you crafted a message that you think people are going to respond to you on. Right? Like people just need to see what you do. Like that's how interesting you can be. Right? So often we look at ourselves and think like, man, like, you know, with the people that we're paying attention to. But there's so many people out there that would love to be at your level. There's so many people out there that would that are inspired to be like you. Even if you're influencing one person, they might not be influencing anyone. And so for me, like just taking that step to just create content, like even if I thought it wasn't going to get nothing, right? I still do it all the time. Like yesterday, I got a cold plunge tub. Right. And I'm like trying to, oh man, what about this cold plunge, all this stuff, trying to craft a message to talk about it. And I did it 3 or 4 times. And I'm like, bro, what are you doing? Just tell them, hey, got a new cold plunge, gonna jump in. Like that's all it takes though, right? Like just doing that, people can start to connect with you and relate with you because you're not putting yourself on some pedestal as somebody that just produces such great content that they can't relate with you. And so I challenge all of my guys, like I have it built into our checklist of an inspection, is that part of what you have to do is take a picture either on the roof, take a video inspecting it. And like, I don't need you to drop a bomb. I just need you to talk. I just need you to show people what you're doing. Show that action. Because I'm creating those versions of me. I have to replicate myself if I want to elevate myself. And so part of that is just showing people what you're doing day in, day out, and just having conversations with it. Most people don't remember what you said anyway. You guys might have taken some notes today, but you're probably not going to remember mostly of it, right? We're all busy. We all got shit going on, right? It's great in the moment, but as the day goes on, like, what the hell is that guy saying in a white shirt earlier today? That's no different than the people that are watching you too. All they need to do is say one thing they connect with and relate with. And so often we're looking at, you know, how do I start? What do I speak about? What I do is I literally have a section in my phone, right? Like start with this, put a section in your phone if you don't have it already, and just make it notes, right? If you see someone speaking on something, take it and speak on it. I mean, I literally had a conversation with Devin on Monday, and Monday evening, I posted a piece of content talking about what he told me. Like none of the shit that I'm giving you or Devin gives you is something that we came up with. 9 times out of 10, what we're talking on is something we heard from somebody else. Right? So like be willing to regurgitate content. Here, watch Alex Hormozy, see what he's doing.
See that? That's all like coaching notes, messages, things I want to build content on, things I want to help people with.
Huge.
No, that's good. That's good. Let me write that down.
And another piece to it is, you know, if you're hesitant, okay, you've got the notes, but that's not really doing it for you. We all are into self-development here. Whether Devin's speaking to you on Wednesdays or you're reading a book in the day, like rather than trying to read 100 pages Rather than trying to read a book a week, read 10 pages, force yourself to speak on it. That was one of the biggest things that helped me get going in the speaking side, was literally consuming content, action behind the content, decision making behind the content, reading something in a book that I'm going through, and then being able to literally finish the book and then go talk about it. Like, make a post about it. Just speak on your story about it. Like, when you can start to do that, you'll start to be able to pull content, lessons, and things out of everything you look at. I can look at a chair now and make content out of it because I've programmed my mind, just like Devin was saying, when we come in here and we're looking for that thing, when we're looking for that one thing that's going to get you, when you're constantly looking for that, no different than when you're creating content, when you're looking at things to make the content around, you're going to start seeing it everywhere, right? Jesus spoke in parables. The whole Bible is parables. It's stories on stories on stories. People relate to stories. There was a reason I shared my story with you guys about my father, because guess what? You can probably all relate in some aspect. It's a story. That's what people want to hear. People want to hear the real version. People want to hear the things that we think disqualify us, right? Ed Milet talks about it all the time. He said, it's the thing that disqualifies us that actually qualifies us. Your story is your testimony. The test that you have gone through is your testimony. You have to speak on that. That's why you have it. That's why you're going through it. You are a vessel to be able to enlighten and empower other people. And if you don't share and if you overcomplicate it, you're not going to create the impact that you're designed to have.
Mike, quick question too. And by the way, guys, if you have questions, the reason why I'm asking questions is because most times people get too shy. But you are here. You have a master class. You have somebody that literally blew up a business within a year. So if your business has not 10x in a year, you should probably be asking a question, right? People, right? How has your content helped you recruit people, right? Because it's a big thing, you know. Everybody is talking about, I can't find people. There's just no good. It's the blanket statement. There's no good people ever. You know what I mean? Like, are you finding, like, you said you went from 0 to 32 employees. So can you share and give some tactical advice to smash that limiting belief?
Yeah, no, dude, that's a great question, Devin. And it's literally funny because I had that conversation at the gym this morning before I came in here. I had a guy that had the landscaping company, and he literally said that same thing to me. He's like, "Oh man, like, yeah, I can't find no one good." I'm like, "Really? I got a ton of good guys." And he's like, "Send some my way." Right. And it's like, it's so, you hear people say it all the time. You can't find good work these days. There's no one to work. The reason you can't find good work is because you haven't created the place to attract the good work. Right? I had a guy I was talking to yesterday. He's like, man, I've never had a tribe like this before, Mike. Like, this is the first time like I've felt at home. I'm so grateful to be here. I've never had it before. I'm like, well, neither have I. Right? You haven't had your tribe because you ain't been you yet. When you start becoming you, the authentic version of yourself, your tribe will attach. But that's why you guys or people might struggle to find good workers, because you are not willing to put your message out there and be authentic. People need authenticity in today's fucked up world. Sorry, but it's true. They need a light. They need something. They need a version. They need a vision that's bigger than themselves, right? They say it takes a leader with a vision to help people with a dream. That's been something that I tell all of my people, like, you have to create your story. So if you guys are struggling to get good people in your business, to get good people working for you, it's because you haven't created the story that you're selling people on yet. I tell my salespeople the same thing. Like, it ain't about a sales pitch. Just create your story. That's how you're going to connect with people. Most of the time when I go out and I'm selling something, I'm not even talking about the product. I'm talking about my story. I'm finding ways to relate with them. That's what sells the product. And so one of the biggest things, if I can give you tactics to it, post on social media. Because people need to see what you're doing. Get all of your people to post on social media. Like, we look at our marketing expenses, and social media is free. Right? You spend money on ads, you spend money on all these things, but you're not you're not leveraging the free software out there to let you grow. So one of the things is empower your people, right? Help them. What we do with our people, when we're bringing them in, I literally sit with them and it's just like, where do you want to be? What's your goals? What do you want to accomplish? There's people that come into my business to do door-to-door sales and end up being my content guy. Because I listen to them. I'm asking them constantly, what do you want to be? What's the goal? Where are you trying to get to? How can I help you get there? Because at the end of my day, we can all do this thing, but we want to do it with a tribe. We want to do it with a team. And so tactics to find good people to me is literally put yourself out there, get your people to put yourself out there and craft your story. And really craft your story, right? If I had to elevator pitch somebody on Columbus Roofing Company and what I've done, the story I shared with you guys today, like I have told that story time and time and time and time again. But that story is what attracts the people. And one other thing is, I think we hesitate because we're always feeling like we're not ready to bring on more people. Right? That's been one of the biggest things for me. It's like, dude, break the business, break it. Don't put so much pressure on what you're doing because you're going to fuck it up time and time again. And so literally over empower people, over hire, get them in, try to build the system, try to create it as you go too. So often that's why we've been able to expand so fast, because literally I brought in 10 people at a time one time, 12 people at a time one time. I have no idea how I'm going to do it. But I know if I can attract them and get them in, and then it's to me like, all right, you do here, you're overseeing this person, you're leading these guys, you're doing, and just constantly trying to build the people and evolving myself out of having to sell my product into selling people and building them. Because that's hard for us, right? We started our business, right? We had to sell it to people. We had to sell the product. And when we sell something, we can immediately see the ROI on what we sell. So then the hard part is that as we evolve into leadership, we don't see an ROI. You can't see the money you're making by building a person.
Yep, exactly. Yep, you can't close a sale and see that deposit go into the company account.
No, you're not getting that. You're not getting that same dopamine hit to getting the sale and seeing money hit the account. You're like, oh man, I made it. You have to be. That's why so many great salespeople aren't great managers. Because they can't transition themselves into the evolution of growing people and teaching people how to make money. They just want to keep themselves and make the money.
And this is so good. We got one more question. I got to let you go, Mike. I want to respect your time. Everybody else's. It's a little minute past 8. But Christine, who, by the way, Christine, shout out to you. You're always sharing the harvest with other people, guys. She's consistently trying to add more people to your network and your community. So, Christine, just want to give you a shout out because I gratefully appreciate that. We work very hard to bring you guys the best people, and that's the number one way you show the appreciation. I appreciate that. Christine said, Mike, do you change your content on different channels, or is it the same message going on LinkedIn, Facebook, etc.?
Yeah, that's a great question, Christine. I think I think understanding your audience is a big part of it, right? Because each platform is a different audience. One thing that I invested in was literally a full-time content person. Like I've got a guy here that's been sitting here the whole time while we've been doing this with a camera right here, right? Because there's a lot of, Brad Lee was talking about it and he's like, we overthink content when you're the content, right? Like just me speaking on this is me. I'm not doing anything special. I don't have this all scripted out. I'm just being me. Being me creates the content. And so I think one part of it is, creating ways to, leverage the conversations and the meetings that you're having. Right. And just gaining content from that, because there's going to be a lot of things in there that you can share. But we do change it up a little bit, right? When it gets into, LinkedIn, and I'm not a huge LinkedIn guy. That necessarily hasn't been my, hasn't been my niche. But one thing that we will do is take video content and then transcribe it and post on LinkedIn. Right. Because LinkedIn isn't going to be as engaging as Instagram, TikTok, and things like that. And then what we do as well is, even with the TikTok's very kind of in your face, right? And again, my TikTok following isn't huge. I'd say majority of my stuff is the podcast and the Instagram, but it's recognizing those platforms. But at the end of the day, too, it's like content is content too. So it's just like, don't overthink it. And posting something is better than posting nothing, right? Because so often we're like, oh, well, maybe this doesn't fit LinkedIn, I'm not going to post it. All right, maybe this isn't great for TikTok, I'm not going to post it. Maybe it's not, Facebook, same thing. It's like, if you make it, just put it out there, right? It's like, find ways to just constantly be able to push your content and keep it in front of people. That to me has been the one thing that has helped us from overthinking it and kind of deciphering it. It's to say like, okay, what does each platform's crowd looking for, right? How can I engage directly with them? And then I have a guy that does my content. I got that guy that runs our social medias. And so he's kind of focusing, if people are asking questions, he's coming to me and saying, Mike, hey, there's a guy, they're asking this question. Here's how we can talk on it. Like, trying to set up ways for, again, people to be thinking and doing these things for me, and then keeping me in my unique ability, right? Keeping me and doing the things that I'm good at, speaking, talking, and building people. And so I have content guys that literally will bring me concepts and things to make the content around per platform.
Christine, you want to share briefly what it is exactly that you do? I know you're in sales, and I'll tell you, man, like women, you have such an easy advantage, meaning that if you got out of your comfort zone to just start doing video, explaining how your services help people, you will get flooded with business. You will get flooded with, like, just the way it is. It's an unfair advantage on social media that you guys can take advantage of at a high level. Mike, I would say you would crush it on LinkedIn all day, every day with all these high business owners, whatever, because they would want to bring you in to speak. So I do very well on LinkedIn. I would highly suggest to do that because you will break the noise of all of LinkedIn.
Mike, thanks so much for being here. Really enjoyed your presentation. Absolutely amazing to hear your story. I'm in fleet sales. We do on-site maintenance of trucks and equipment, which I'm sure you'll appreciate, in roofing and with background working with construction guys and things like that. So I sell to large fleets, but on the side, I am actually creating a at-home workout video that helps with back pain, things like that. So I'm so close to getting it out there, and all the things that Devin's talked about and you've mentioned as far as like, what are people going to think? And is this going to look right? And all those things have kind of held me back. So it's basically where I am.
And let me ask you this too. It's like one thing that, I think we all, the video and the product, I'm sure, is extremely valuable, right? Like sometimes we put so much intention on the product that we're creating to make it perfect, not realizing that Christine, you're the product, right? Like you're the offer, you're the product, you're everything. So same thing with me. I'm putting a course together. I'm like, it's got to be perfect. It's this, it's that. It's like, no, I know that if anyone buys that course, I'm going to fulfill it. Because I know me, I'm integrous. If I'm selling something, I'm going to make sure that they're getting the results. I'm not just selling something to sell something. Right. And so, when you're making the course and creating it, don't overthink to be like, don't, don't go for perfection. Right. Because just getting it out, there's the first iteration. Right. Like I've failed at 2 or 3 other things before I got to where I'm at and have found success. And I'm sure I'm going to fail a lot more things too. But it's not putting so much intention like, man, if I fail this, I'm flubbed up. Like I'm working full time with this sales thing. I got that. I really want to do this side thing. But if I start too early or if I do this, maybe it's not going to be successful. And now I lost my chance. You're going to have 1,000 more chances, right? The only thing you can do is get it out and get it in front of people and then start to see like, what do the people want? Then you can start to craft. And by your 3rd, 4th video that you put out, you'll be doing that. You won't be in sales anymore. And you'll be all over the place.
I wasn't planning on charging for it. Like I was just going to kind of put it out there my goal is to help people like you. I am a very deeply spiritual and religious person. So, I just, I feel like God put it on my heart. I have a very unique understanding, just a gift of creating these movements to help people be more mobile. I think a lot of people suffer with low back pain and they're not moving in the correct direction. So it really is something that I just kind of wanted to give. Like I wasn't going to charge for it.
What's your, and what's the, okay, so it's obviously you're saying like it's on your heart, right? It's something you have education around, something you're confident in. What is the hesitation then potentially of feeling like you
insecurity.
Okay. Yeah.
And straight up insecurity. I mean, just exactly like what if people don't like this? Like what, I'm gonna make a fool of myself, like that kind of thing.
Yeah. No, and I mean, like literally what we talked
But
about, right?
like you said, it's just getting uncomfortable. It's getting
Yeah,
uncomfortable. I mean,
that's
I have
it.
to do it. Just have to do it.
That's it. And the thing is, you know, what has always helped me in the moments of insecurities is stepping back and looking at my action. Because a lot of times when, you know, not you specifically, right? But a lot of times when we have insecurities, we have the insecurities because we're not doing the things to make us secure. Right. But it sounds like to you, this is something on your heart that you want to do good. This is something you want to help people. Like literally every action and intention behind this thing is pure. And so you shouldn't have the insecurities to it. That's just that voice in your head. That's that monkey on your shoulder. Because if you reflect and you take a step back, you're going to see like, man, I'm actually doing everything. Like I have the education. I want to help people. It's on my heart. I know God's got my back. I got to do it.
Yeah, no, you're right. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, great stuff, Mike. This was incredible. Again, another one, guys. You're probably going to have to rewatch, write some notes down. But, Mike, thank you so much, man. This exceeded expectations, but I am not surprised. Guys, remember, follow Mike, support Mike, share the call, right? That's how you can support Mike. You know, tag him on Instagram, share it on Facebook, get people to request him and follow him. And let everybody know, man, you're focusing on getting to that next version, right? Some people are afraid to say that, but when people say, like, what you're doing something with personal development, that raises the way people look at you, no matter what. So, Mike, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Have an amazing day. You start off your day the best way possible. Let's crush it. Let's be intentional. Let's execute the lessons that we learned on this call.
Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate you, man.
Beautiful watch, Mike. Beautiful watch.
Thank you.